Dialed In Angling Podcast presented by OnX Fish, Arneson's Rocky Point Resort, Strike Master, and 13 Fishing. Hey, welcome back to this week's podcast. I'm actually north of the border on good old Lake of the Woods. On the Canadian side of Lake of the Woods, I'm at Totem Resorts. We're actually out at Wiley Point Lodge, which is on an island out in the middle of Lake of the Woods on the Canadian side. No other place I'd rather be right now. It's mid-July. I know it's been extremely hot the last few weeks in Minnesota. To beat the heat, we're up in Canada. It's not a whole lot cooler here, but it is just a slightly cooler. And of course, the fish are biting. What I love about this area is, I've been coming up here for years to this location, also Totem Resorts. But what I love about this area is you're smack dab in the middle of Lake of the Woods. So if you want to run up towards Kenora and fish up that way for a day, if you want to head down towards the northwest angle, towards Flag Island and Oak Island and all of that, it's not that far. You're kind of just strategically positioned right in the middle of a lot of good fishing. And what I love about Lake of the Woods in general, you can watch Dialed In Angling. We filmed this winter at Yellowbird Lodge. It's a great multi-species destination. It really is. There's not a lot of places that you can go catch giant smallmouth, huge muskies, huge pike, a pile of walleyes, not to mention huge walleyes. And so Lake of the Woods is just one of those destinations. Going back to guiding on Flag Island Resort when I was in college, all the way through my adulthood, I've spent time in this area. I've spent a ton of time at Wiley's. I've spent a ton of time up by Kenora and all over Lake of the Woods. I love it. It's really not that far from Minnesota. It's really not that far from my house. I mean, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump up here. You zip up 35 and you're here in no time. It's closer for me than, going to some destinations, on the Great Lakes. And so I absolutely love it. I love being here. We're up with the Ron Schara Productions group. Every single year, this crew brings a bunch of people up here to do literally a week of fishing on Wiley Point. Ron Schara said this was his 31st year at Wiley's. Pretty darn cool. Coming up here and just hammering on fish year after year after year is super fun. I'm glad I got invited this year. I feel privileged to be up here with the group, taking out customers that are our friends. And that's the cool part about it is like everyone that's here, we're all buddies. We got the entire Rapala crew here. We got, everyone from Ron Schara Productions, the different TV shows, whether it be Minnesota Bound and Bill Shirk. You got The Flush, Due North with Travis Frank. Ron Schara himself is up here. And we're just fishing with different groups of people. We've got the guys from Connecticut. We've got the guys from Bonelli, Rapala, like I mentioned, and it's just a fun group of guys to be up here fishing and literally picking. Like what's cool about here is like you can just look at a spot, drive out to it, and start scanning and catching fish. We have caught not only a ton of walleyes, we've caught a bunch of big walleyes, we've caught smallmouth bass, again, big pike today. The two guys that I had in my boat were from Bonelli. They got their personal best pike up here. We saw some muskies. We had a big muskie follow yesterday right up to the boat, but a lot of the guys are catching muskies with the full moon going on right now. We're actually going to do a quick interview with Matt, their head guide. If you tune into Dialed In Angling, we've had Matt on the podcast before, but we filmed last winter out of Yellowbird, and I had a great experience going out with Matt. He's a great guy, a great guide. What I love about guys like Matt is, just being a guide for the past 25 years, it takes a special person to be a good guide, where you need to be really good at fishing, you need to be really good with customers, and you also have to be a really good multi-species angler. And Matt and I hit it off from the beginning. I met him at Yellowbird. He was just easy going. He's like, what do you want to fish for? We headed out onto Lake of the Woods, caught a ton of fish, literally filmed an episode. He said, we don't really need to get out there till about noon, and the bite will go until just after dark, and it'll be over, and we'll have a show. And, for someone that, hosts a TV show, it's stressful for me. There's a lot on the back end where we're getting things ready. I want to spend as much time on the water or on the ice to make sure we got a really good episode. And, we got out there about noon. We filmed a killer episode. We topped the episode off with catching a monster lake trout at the end. And that's sort of this neck of the woods in a nutshell. The fact that you can just go out, plop down in an area in the middle of winter and catch lake trout, walleyes, perch, all of the above, pike. You can do that here. And then you come up here in the summer and it's accelerated tenfold, right? We didn't fish lake trout. Obviously, it's a little bit warm right now. But like I said, out of the group, we've only been here for a day and a half. We've literally caught trophy pike, trophy walleyes, trophy smallmouth, and big-time numbers of all of the above. Not to mention, we kept a few perch for our shore lunch the other day. And so it truly is a fun destination. It's one of those destinations that is on my list year after year. I'm super pumped to be here. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. When I come back, we're going to have Matt jump on the podcast. We're going to talk about how he's been fishing. He's been on this water every single day, basically since opener, taking customers out day after day after day. Stay tuned. We're going to have Matt from Wiley Point up next. All right, Matt. I can't tell you how pumped I am to be in this neck of the woods. Obviously, just driving up here, I love this part of Lake of the Woods. Like I said, it's one of my favorite places to go, especially at Totem Resorts and Wiley Point, because it's so centrally located, right? I mean, for me to get to Totem Lodge from my house is a hop, skip, and a jump. It takes no time at all. And then to rip out here on a boat and to be where we're at every morning, to get up, have breakfast here, and then rip out and have world-class fishing at every corner, at every point, at every hump to catch walleyes, pike, smallmouth, muskies, lake trout, you name it, big perch. We've caught everything, and we've only been here a day and a half. We've only scratched the surface. I'm super pumped to have you on the podcast to, sort of prick your brain as far as you've been out here every single day. What are you seeing this summer? How does it vary from, past years, and how's the season going for you?
Yeah, it's been really good. The biggest thing would be the cabbage beds are back. It's been a couple years where the water's been 2 feet high, then 2 feet low, and lots of currents been moving the sand and sediment around. But we've got cabbage beds here that are thicker than we've seen in years, and it's good. It's made the ability to fish walleyes up shallow, like I've said on a couple of my reports coming out. But yeah, you can fish walleyes. I mean, we caught shore lunch today in about 6 to 8 feet of water. Just jigs in a minnow, and then the nice thing is the ability to go and target muskies. I mean, we literally put the muskie rods down and jigged, and we were fishing walleyes in the same spot, so it was great. The really nice thing about this area is you're in dead center Lake of the Woods. We've got 3 different types of water clarity, and it all sort of converges like a coffee filter here at Wiley Point Lodge. The Big Narrows area is where everybody comes to film. All the big names come, and to move 10 to 20 muskies a day is normal. It's great. 50 to 100 walleye a day is, I'm sure you guys have seen, is more than doable. And the nice thing is you don't have to go far, right? We're 14,000 islands. Even the windiest days, we're still able to go out fishing. We're not blowing off the water. And it's a short drive back to camp. So makes things easy.
I have the hardest time not driving far. For me, because you're on Lake of the Woods and I want to explore, and I'm like, oh, that island looks good. Oh, that looks good. That reef looks dynamite. And like you said, I have everything on my deck right now, because I'll pull into a spot and we're catching walleyes, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, there's a big pike right there. Cast at it. We did it today. Threw out a 6-inch freeloader, like bop, 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 snapped it. The guy in my boat caught his PB pike, and then we just go along, and like today, all of a sudden we came up on this hump, and I actually rolled up on this hump. I didn't know it was there. The map must have been a little bit off. And I was like, oh, it's kind of chunky rock loaded with smallmouth. So I'm like, oh, you guys drop the rods down, grab the smallmouth rods. So it was like that all day long. Every spot we went to, we kind of ripped around today. Yesterday, we stayed really close. Obviously did shore lunch on the island right over here. But today was so much fun because it was like, okay, grab the Ned rigs, grab the freeloader, grab the mooch minnow. And then it was like, I fish plastics the last 2 days almost exclusively. I threw a jig wrap on one spot, caught a few fish, but as you know, certain spots, the jig wraps can be a little bit snaggy.
Yeah.
Or, you get 3 guys in the boat chucking a jig wrap, it's less than ideal. So I've literally been throwing Crush City plastics the entire time and caught every species so far on that.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, the plastics, you can almost outdo the live baits with the plastics. Obviously a live minnow on a little 1/8 ounce or quarter ounce jig is hard to beat, but those Crush City swim baits, if you know how to fish them properly out over deeper ledges and stuff, you'll catch fish all day. Yeah. And I tell my guests all the time, like, oh, we want to do walleyes. Okay, well, I've got a muskie rod with a Bondi bait. Well, what's that for? Well, it's when we're catching walleyes and a muskie comes in. So the amount of fish I've caught, 44, 48-inch pike, or muskies, jigging walleye spots, it just proves your point. I mean, you can catch everything and anything all on the same spots here. And I mean, some of my best muskie spots are within eyesight of Wiley Point Lodge.
I yesterday had Ron Schara in my boat, and him and I got to fish together, and obviously a treat to fish with a legend like Ron.
Yeah.
What was cool is Ron kept on asking me, he's like, let's go catch some smallmouth, because we had caught so many walleyes. You want to talk about 50 to 100? I mean, that we did that in the morning. I mean, it was just like that good. But the afternoon was even better because we slid up way shallow. I didn't fish the cabbage like you said, but I literally started moving shallow, and the shallower I got looking for smallmouth, the more walleyes I caught, and the bigger walleyes I caught.
Yeah, they're on a heavy feed right now on the crayfish. The bigger fish seem to be up feeding on crayfish basically since they showed up after the water warmed up. It will go a bit more to a leech and then back to a minnow bite later. But right now, we've got about 2 weeks every year that it's like this.
Yeah.
And it's my favorite time because you can take guys and go cast for walleyes. So how much better can it be other than sitting out in the middle of the lake jigging in 25, 28 feet of water to go target shorelines and cast all day long? I mean, and then you run into bass, you run into big pike, you'll run into muskies, you'll run into huge walleyes. And that's the nice thing out here is, I do a lot of the training for the young guys, and it's hard to explain. Like, there is fish everywhere, but there's fish nowhere at the same time out here. And I mean, the ability to use your electronics, forward-facing sonar, stuff like that is a huge bonus. But Lake of the Woods is a great fishery to come out. And I mean, I always say it's the best place to bring kids because you're going to catch fish all day long.
You can literally run the bank and catch everything. That's what we did this afternoon. That's what I did yesterday afternoon. I literally ran the bank, and I would target some fish that were suspended off the edge, and the guys were throwing at the bank. They're like, got one, like everyone's catching them. So whether you have, forward facing sonar or not, you don't need it. You come up here and you fish the bank like that. Or even we pulled up to a reef that sort of was like a reef on top. We caught a few, and we kind of slid off the edge where it kind of rolls into that transition like sand in the bay before it came up to another reef, like basically a saddle.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of walleyes that were on that structure right now blew my mind. I mean, I showed the guys, I said, man, you should film my screen right now, because from 0 feet, I had my forward-facing sonar, out to 80 feet, it was solid fish.
Yep.
The entire time. There's no way that you could have fit more walleyes onto that little saddle. And, there's obviously some current moving through there and stuff, but that's what trips my trigger. I talk about it all the time on this podcast, is I love discovering. And so, like you said, you don't have to go far from Wiley's. And that's true. After dinner, we've been going out and catching fish right out front here. All of these reefs are absolutely packed full. But in the morning the next day, I'm like a little kid. I need to go ripping as far as I can with my boat to go explore some back bay that I've never fished before, because it's like time is precious. You only have a week here. We've got basically we're fishing 3 days or 4 days here. And I'm trying to pack it all in every single day.
Well, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, I've had 26 years on the lake, and I've been at Wiley. This is my 19th year, and I'll be driving to spots I've fished a couple times a day, and I'm like, oh, I've never fished that back corner. Maybe I'll give that a shot. Go in there. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But out here, it's such a playground, and I think it's so great for the guides out here that whether you've been here for 20, 30, 40 years, like some of our guides have, or you're brand new, is every day is something new, and every day is you're learning something great, something interesting, something changes out here. And the cool thing about Lake of the Woods is the sheer size of it. Is a spot like yours on most lakes, there'd be a lineup of boats waiting for it. There's probably within eyesight of Wiley, there's probably 20 spots that are just like that saddle you spoke about, that are just loaded the exact same. The fishery out here is so good, it's so untouched. And I mean, 2 weekends ago we had one of the biggest bass tournaments on Lake of the Woods, and I think I counted 4 boats. Yeah. And it was a weekend.
Well, even ripping, like today we put on miles. We ran all the way to the west end. And, realistically, obviously there's some people at their cabins and cottages and stuff, but like maybe saw 5 boats all day and covering that much water on Lake of the Woods. Never saw a boat fishing by us. Never saw, it was just in passing, you know.
Yep.
And think about that, the amount of water that we covered to get to where I went today, and to only see 5 boats is remarkable. And I kept on joking with the guys. I said, we've literally driven over billions of walleyes to go to where we went today. And it was just because of, you know, I like to go and explore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I always, it crossed my mind all the time, you know, especially going out to muskie spots, is you go and try to hammer the bigger fish. And I always wonder, like, how many muskies have I driven past to get to that one spot? But the walleye fishing, I mean, even crappies, perch, lake trout, it's the same thing. You can go everywhere and you're driving past, around, or near fish that you could be hammering too, right? So it's really fun to come out here, whether you hire a guide or not. You can just explore, and you'll find fish on different structure. I'm sure you could go out and jig bass right now on 25 feet. You could find them up on rock shelves and 2 or 3 feet up on the top of those reefs. The muskies are everywhere. Walleyes are everywhere. It's an amazing fishery. And the nice thing is, too, is it doesn't change from here to all the way to the September, October when we close here. It's the same fishing. It's great.
Yeah, like Ryan and Duchesne and I were talking down at the dock. You know, if you want to come to a location and just get bit, it's hard to beat this area.
Yeah.
You know, because for everything, we like catching everything. You know, my main go-to has been, I've been swimming baits the entire time, but I've had people in my boat snap jigging. Yesterday, we got into a really good snap jigging bite with 1/4 ounce moon eye jigs, VMC moon eyes, with the jerk, you know, that Crush City jerk. And I think with the crayfish molt and all those crayfish being in shallow, that TPE material, it'll just stand straight up, almost like a defensive crayfish, sort of like a Ned rig. Because Ron was fishing a Ned rig trying to catch bass, and once he started snapping it, you know, he just started lighting up the walleyes, and they love that defensive crayfish. And today, I mean, I primarily swam baits while my guys snap jigged, and we both caught them. But I was like targeting individual fish just because I can.
Yeah.
And some of them were only, you know, 4 or 5 feet down over, let's say, 15 feet of water off the ledge, right? Yep. There was a ton of fish just suspended off the edge. Tons of bait. The lake is super healthy. You want to talk about healthy from top to bottom. I saw tons of bait. I saw tons of walleyes. I caught tons of perch. You know, like you said, there's muskies, there's pike, whatever. You talked earlier about the vegetation being gone. You know, one of the parts of having invasive species like rusty crayfish is the fact that they eat vegetation.
Yeah.
We've seen it on lakes all around Minnesota, you know, whether it be Leech Lake or whatever. But it's amazing when you get that cabbage to bounce back. And, you know, for me, I don't think of Lake of the Woods as being like this crazy good weed bite like you would in the States, right? And like you would on Leech Lake or whatever. But anytime I can find cabbage, everything's in there. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a huge part of our program too. I mean, the bass are up in there right now, the bigger bass. That's where the guys are gonna be targeting them with, you know, hair jigs and trying to do that leech bite for the tournaments. But the muskies are up there. They're keeping out of the sun because of the heat wave we have here. But everything's up there. The crayfish are in there, and it's a huge. The nice thing is like there's so much of the ability to target anything that you want out here. And like you said, I mean, you can come out here, a simple jig and a swim bait, and you can catch fish all day long. You don't need to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on gear and tackle and all that stuff. You can come up and just throw a jig around, and you'll catch more than enough fish. Same with the muskie stuff, the bass stuff, top waters, divers, crankbaits, swim baits, Ned rigs. They're all working. I mean, I'm throwing tubes and top waters for muskies, and we're getting action on both. One bait's down 10 feet, the other one's up on the surface. So, you know, it's a great way too. Like the forward-facing sonar's got a lot of flack, but it's a great way to see that like not everything is in 6 feet of water. Not everything's out in 25 feet of water. They move, they change areas, and it's such a great fishery because you can go do the weed bite. You can go do the current bite. You can go do the deep ledges and the drop-offs, and you can go find sand and gravel. But it's really good to be able to key in and do what you want to do. But that weed bite with that stuff coming back is a huge addition for us because it has been gone for 4 or 5 years now, and it's a great thing to have back.
Yeah, absolutely. You had me at topwater.
Yep.
I love topwater fishing for any species, but muskies in particular. You know, when I was younger, guiding at Flag Island, I would literally get done guiding and I would go back out in the evenings and throw topwaters. And this time of year when they were going on topwaters, I just remember seeing that wake for the first time. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, you can't replace that. And I absolutely love throwing topwaters. Last night I went with Dustin Butler from Rapala. We were throwing some topwaters up on top. We had, trying to take advantage of that sundown bite that we're having right now with the full moon. Basically the moon rise is what we were targeting. And, just hearing that bait last night when it was dead flat column, just, it just gets the blood pumping.
Yeah, no, it's, I always explain to people, okay, so you're going to throw this topwater and what you're looking for is a boat and gear behind your bait. And like, really? It's going to look like a wave coming at it. And like the last thing you want to do is slow down. So no matter what, just speed up, keep the same speed at least. And no matter what happens to, around, next to, underneath, above your bait, just keep reeling till you feel the weight of the fish. The fish here, they tend to push a ton of water. You'll see their whole back, their tail. Sometimes you'll see their mouth come open and come at the bait. And I've seen a lot of people pull it out of the fish's mouth instead of waiting. But yeah, it's honestly one of the best times of year is the topwater bite. I love throwing the big 13-inch Weagles up here, even though those get blown out of the water like 4 feet in the air sometimes. Yeah. But the topwater bite, whether it's bass or muskie, pike, if you can target them on the surface, that's probably the best time to do it.
Literally Shark Week, man.
Yeah.
It's Shark Week at Wiley Point with Matt. Hey, Matt, I know you're heading out here. We're getting close to after dinner hour. You've got some customers. I actually talked to your customers a little bit this morning.
Yep.
I know you're getting ready to head out here. I appreciate you taking the time and chatting with us on Dialed In Angling. Obviously, if people are interested, I was following your fishing reports that I saw on Facebook. How can people get a hold of you? How can they track you? How can they follow your fishing reports? If they want to rip up here, I know with the heat we've been having, a ton of people are like me. They're like, man, I'd love to go to Lake of the Woods and just catch a bunch of fish.
Yeah, so if you're looking to do a trip, totemresorts.com. You can call our reservations department at 1-807-226-5275. Ask for the reservations. They can get you helped with a custom package. We do all of our own packages here, built for every single customer, just solely. Or you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Matt Dyment, or Lake of the Woods, Matt Dyment. Our Wiley Point Instagram page has me on there as well. Same with our Totem Resorts and Yellowbird page. Feel free to follow. And we're trying to do a bunch of content. We're also starting to answer questions if people want to leave questions on our videos. But yeah, that's the best way to look. And I mean, feel free to shoot me a message if you have any questions about coming to Lake of the Woods or coming out and fishing, whatever you want. And it's a huge lake, 14,000 islands, man. It's an amazing time to come out.
I highly recommend you coming out fishing with Matt. What was cool about Matt's fishing report, I saw it on Wiley Point page before I came up. Of course, I'm a fishing geek, so I'm scrolling through all the fishing reports. I'm checking out, everything that I need to bring. Your fishing report was literally spot on. When you said you were catching fish shallow in the cabbage, I was like, yeah, whatever. It's Lake of the Woods. You catch them all over the place, right? The best bites I've had so far have been really shallow and fish like uptight, like big walleyes uptight. Obviously, you can go out to any reef right now and catch fish.
Yep.
But those really shallow spots, you're going to catch walleyes, you're going to catch pike, you're going to catch smallmouth, all of the above. And so, Matt, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Obviously, I hope you have a great rest of your summer. I know you're busier than heck. I've seen you just ripping around. We've tried to connect several times since I've only been here a day and a half, and it's been hard to catch up to this guy. So, Matt, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Man. And I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you again. We need to get out on a boat because it's a little warmer now than on the sleds.
Well, I was hoping that you didn't have customers tonight so we can go muskie fishing.
You're going to have to file a request with the reservations department.
Awesome, man. Hey, stay tuned. We got more from Wiley Point after this. onX Fish is the best tool I have ever used for finding new lakes to target. Quickly filter lakes by species, then select trophy potential, high abundance, keeper potential, or high stocking effort to find the fish you're after in the size and the numbers you are trying to catch. Download from the App Store today to get research tools for the serious anglers and beginners alike, giving you the data to target the right lakes and the confidence to get there. Use tools like recent imagery, fishing hotspot data, or the best-in-class weather features that call out current wind, weather, barometer, moon phase, majors and minors, along with precip and more. onX Fish is a phenomenal tool both on and off the water for discovering new fishing opportunities, many of which you'd never known existed. Download onX Fish Midwest today, the app that is changing the game on ice and open water. All right, my next guest, Joel Nelson from Onyx Fish. Like I had said earlier in the podcast, there's a whole bunch of us up here. What I love about this crew from Ron Schara Productions is we're all friends, right? We got Onyx Fish here. We got the Connecticut Water guys. You got the Rapala guys. You got Benelli guys. I mean, everyone up here is super cool, super laid back. Everybody's down on the deck right now, basically sharing stories about how the fishing is. We eat like kings. Joel, what I shouldn't say my surprise, but my every time I come to this part of Lake of the Woods, I'm always shocked at how much water there is. First of all, it's endless, obviously, when you're taking boat rides. But number two is every spot you go to has a fish on it. Awesome. Whether it's loaded or whether it's eater-sized walleyes, whether it's big fish, it could be smallmouth, it could be perch. But it seems like every spot you go to, we just talked to Matt in depth about, he was talking how the cabbage has really bounced back out here in these back bays, and you don't have to go very far from Wiley to catch fish. Although that being the case, it's really hard for me not to take major boat rides and go exploring.
Yeah, 100%. We did that today. We did it yesterday, right? There's so much good water, yet at the same time, you know that it's not all created equal. To your point earlier about the versatility of this place. I mean, there's back bays that held everything from smallmouth and walleyes and sauger to even, some big pike. There's musky spots out on these prime wind-blown rock edges. We took a big boat ride today to look for great big fish and some cleaner water. It's amazing. The adventure side of what we do up here is super important, and that's what I really love to do. It's like see new things, catch new fish, try new places, and Lake of the Woods is pretty hard to beat for that.
When I packed for this trip, the amount of stuff that I packed in my boat is off the charts, right? Because you don't know how you're going to fish. Ultimately, there's no wrong way to fish. So, I threw in ripping wraps, jigging wraps, jerk baits, plastics, jigs, swim bait, you name it. I had it in the boat. I actually went through my boat, organized everything, had my Crush City plastics. I've got my mares, freeloaders, mooch minnows. I've got all of that organized, the jig heads organized, because, all summer of guiding, it's like a carnival in my boat, like the the one count, the pocket right by the throttle is literally like a junk drawer. So I went through all that stuff, got it organized, and literally we've only been here, a day and a half, and it looks just like chaos because you're catching so many fish and you're catching them on so many different things. And, you're throwing at pike one instance, the next instant you're throwing at walleyes, and then there's a bunch of perch. We caught some for shore lunch, these mega perch we got for shore lunch. So that to me, right in itself, and you're just at every bend, it's sort of chaos.
Yeah, there's so many types of opportunities that pop up at a moment's notice. We saw a muskie today that we did not have any intent on catching a muskie, but we saw it on live off to the side. We're like, hey, we'll throw it that guy. And we got him to kind of do a lazy follow for us. But to your point about never knowing what you're going to fish next, all of a sudden around the turn, like you said, we found these just huge schools of smallmouth up really shallow, like 2 and 3 feet. Now, they weren't big ones, but man, on just a jig and a paddle tail, it was just a blast. And we got our fill of that. We slipped off to the edge, caught a bunch of walleye. If you're just an angler that loves excitement, new things, new fish, new places, Lake of the Woods is for you. I'm just such a big fan.
Yeah, this area and Wiley Point is just special. If you want to get good at techniques too, like a lot of people say, man, I hear a lot about Crush City plastics. How do you fish this? Whether it's a jerk or whatever. Swimming minnows, whatever. I swam minnows all day long. Yesterday, I did a lot of snap jigging. I had my customers, they were snap jigging today. If you want to get good at a technique, this is the place to do it. The guys I had in my boat today, didn't do a lot of snap jigging and plastics. They fished with Bill yesterday. They were swimming baits. They were fishing shallow for smallmouth primarily. They weren't doing the program that I was doing. And after they did that, they're like, man, I love this. And, they're fishy guys, and so, it's funny how even some of those bigger freeloaders, like that 6-inch freeloader that I was throwing for pike, the walleyes were eating it. But those guys were saying, man, we could take this out east and use it for striped bass. Like these things are insane.
A technique new to me today was strolling. I know the bass guys have been talking about it quite a bit, and we ended up finding some fish on live scope, huge walleyes. and could not get them to eat on the traditional jig and crawl or all the stuff we know how to do, throw a jig wrap out. They wouldn't eat it. And so we started strolling plastics, just like a real tight jigging cadence as you really slowly bring it back to them pretty even. And Ben, my boat partner, got a really big one to eat that way. And it's just so gratifying. Like you said, it's a target-rich environment. So you get a lot of practice and you figure out really quick what doesn't work and what does work. And that makes you a better angler at the end of the day.
That's all I did all day today. I mean, I literally, I'd be like, okay, guys, there's a huge, school of walleyes off to my side. And then as they're snap jigging and catching them, they were using 1/4 ounce moon eyes with that jerk, the Crush City jerk, and they were snap jigging on the bottom. And what I mean by snap jigging is literally letting it hit the bottom, momentarily pause, snap it, let it hit the bottom, momentarily pause, and they were catching them. But what I was doing is looking off the edge. So I didn't want to cast into their fish. I wanted them to catch them. And then I would just look off the edge. And I was throwing an 1/8 ounce head, a small little VMC 1/8 ounce head. I was using tungsten until I got bit off a couple times. And then I just switched to a net head. But I just had that small little 3-inch Crush City. Well, I had the jerk on there as well. I swam the jerk, but then I had the freeloader, the new freeloader, the smaller size, and then I had the mooch minnow on there. Sorry, I had a gap there. But throwing the mooch minnow and just swimming it back to the boat, I was just straight above those fish. As soon as they engage, I would keep that swimming. But if they started dropping down, I would just drop it down and like pop and do a quick snap and like, whoa, they were like, whoa, what was that? And sometimes I'd get them reinterested. A couple times I had fish, which I don't often get fish in the States to do this, but when they come back to the boat, a lot of times if you have to take them up in the air and bring your presentation up, it's game over. They don't eat. Here, I started kind of reeling a little bit faster, and they ate so hard next to the boat.
That was one of the best lessons we learned today. We learned it last year as well. So often when you're fishing those kind of active presentations, you'll attract several fish that are interested. They'll trail it a long way, and so many of them end up below your boat just because you brought them there, and either the bait got out of the way quick enough, you weren't realizing that they were tracking. And if you just fish it slow and wait till it gets near the boat, and like you said, now it's do or die. They have to make that decision. They'll rush up and absolutely smoke it. And it's like extra incentive to pay attention, stay tuned, stay focused. The cast isn't over. Even right below the boat, those fish followed it all the way in.
Yeah, it is a fun way to get good with your electronics. It's a fun way to just catch them. And, for me, it's a fun way to experiment and have different anglers in the boat fishing different ways to figure out what's our best way to catch them. And, some spots we'd go to, like I was dominating, right? I was catching them like crazy. Then other spots, we were all catching them. And then other spots, them snap jigging, they were outperforming me, swimming those baits. I think sometimes when those fish are up really shallow and something comes flying by them quickly, it's, to your point, it's fight or flight.
Yeah.
Like, you need to eat this bait now. We were talking to Matt a little bit earlier. He was super pumped about the cabbage being back. And what I love about fishing cabbage beds is that same fact. It's like when you swim something through a cabbage bed, those fish are kind of sitting in there. They're either sitting in there for the shade or whatever, an ambush point, but something comes flying by them. They are like, I got to eat that. And it's sort of an instinctive thing. They don't have time to react. It's the same reason I love fishing current, all of that stuff. It's like that reactionary strike happens quickly. It's like they have to make a decision. It's now or never.
You brought up electronics. We had maybe a reverse strategy for side imaging than you'd typically do. I use side imaging a ton to find broad areas. You scan at pretty quick speeds, maybe 4 to 6 miles an hour, what you're trying to decide to hone in on further. We did it the other way. We found a good pot of fish on live, and they were just loaded in there. We're like, okay, we caught tons of these fish. It was great. We had a great time. On our way back out, we turn on side imaging. It's like, well, this is how a good side imaging screen should look like. This is the way. When they're loaded up, that's what it should look like. You kind of make a mental image in your mind. You'll always know what that should be from that point on.
The reefs look so beautiful on side imaging here. But just that shield rock into some of the rubble. And then you see the hard, stark transition. We talk a lot about recognizing transition lines and different things, not just fishing Lake of the Woods, but just wherever you're at. you want to get good at electronics here, man. You see that hard shield rock just dump into mud, and like that sandy, silty mud, and you can see it. And then you see the fish sitting on both and how they're relating to both.
We checked out some new things too on Onyx today. There's something called verified catch areas. If you've seen any of the dots on the map before, you know that these are some of the community spots that's been in the map before. But the purple polygons are kind of new to Onyx Fish. And what these are areas where actual fish have been caught. These are pros, guides, fisheries data, even tournament catch data, individual points where actual catches have been made inform these polygons. So these aren't suggestions on where to go because of the moon or what we think could be good. This is where actual fish have been caught. So Ben and I checked out some of these areas, and all those places that we identified had good fish. And it makes sense, right? Some of these are fishery sampled fish. Some of these are tournament catches. It's like these are where anglers have recorded fish being caught. It all held true today, so we ended up with a really good fish on one of those areas.
I'm glad you brought that up. What at Onyx Fish gets Joel Nelson excited right now? I know you've got a ton of new stuff like you just talked about coming down the pike. Talking about, you and I were just chatting a little bit about, catch rates and the data that you guys are putting now in the website as far as like picking destinations where, hey, it looks like catch rates are getting really good here and are trending upward.
Right.
When I'm planning a vacation, that's some of the things I look into. Robbie and I geek out over Onyx Fish all the time.
I love Robbie.
And Robbie is constantly bringing up lakes that are outliers and different things. The amount of data that you guys have on your site, what's something new? What are some of the tools that you're getting excited about?
Yeah, that's cool. I appreciate the question. Yeah, that verified catch areas is neat for me. We tried to do it in a way that wouldn't sell out anybody's top secret spots. It's not on small lakes. If there's not many polygons on a lake, we're not going to show it. That's not our goal. Our goal is to help anglers new to a body of water find a lot of new places to fish that actually have fish. Again, not suggestions, but where fish were actually caught. I think the other thing that gets me really excited right now is wind on map. We haven't had a lot of wind this week, but right now, boy, if you can get an area where 3 days prior you had a really good wind piling into a shoreline or some islands, it would be just golden, right? You would find these areas that held concentrations of fish. And not only does this wind on map feature kind of just visibly show you where the wind is hitting what shorelines or what islands, it shows you what it's going to be 1 day, 3 days, 5 days from now. So you can get a great idea for trip planning based, just sitting on your couch trying to figure out, hey, I think I want to go check that area out. Yeah, that's going to check out. It's going to get a great wind piling into it for a couple days. We'll check that out on day 3 of our trip.
So we were down at the Minnesota Vikings Lund boat deal, children's event on Minnetonka. I talked about it on last week's podcast. You don't want to talk about the wind on portion of the site. Every spot that had wind blowing over the top of it had fish on it. I don't fish Minnetonka very often. I don't claim to be a pro out there. But anytime I'm in a new body of water or experimenting on a new lake, or even today on Lake of the Woods, being in a back new bay, guess what? The wind was blowing back in this bay, and we crushed them. Lake Minnetonka last week, I don't know where to go on Lake Minnetonka, but I can see this big point where the wind's blowing on, and I'm going to spot lock there and crush the largemouth bass. Wind is key. Current is key. To have that is a powerful tool.
Yeah, I fished that same event, Tony, as you know, and boy, we had great luck on all the wind-blown spots too. And, we looked at points, and then we had like little feeding shelves, little small bump outs on these points. And where it got wind, it was on fire. It was absolute dynamite. So again, if you've never been to some of these places, I don't fish Minnetonka, hardly ever. Tony, I know you never do either. It gives you such a great reference, such a starting point. And yeah, I think data is power. I think information is something that can help make you a more intelligent angler and make better decisions when you're out on the water. And I think it's always worth a couple minutes. You don't have to spend 20 minutes or a half hour. You just pull up the app, check a couple things. What's the wind going to do? What's the temp going to do? Yeah, if you're a musky angler, maybe you're looking at some of the moonrise information and all that. And yeah, just kind of develop a little plan, maybe a little milk run for the day, and then get out there and execute.
That's what I love about Onyx Fish is I can go on that app. There's tons of tools that I use every single day. I can't tell you how many times I've used the Onyx Fish app strictly for driving directions on my Apple CarPlay. I'm not kidding you, because if you pull up just a Google map, or even if you pull up your Apple Maps, the public accesses are not marked. You clicked right on the public access. It gives you driving directions at the bottom. You click on that and you're there. I do that all the time for guiding. I do it all the time when I'm exploring new lakes. It's always in my truck. It's always on Apple CarPlay. That alone is worth the price of admission right there.
Tony, how many times you and I both back in the day when we were younger, when we were kids in high school, we'd look at some DNR data, or we'd hunt for old maps and have gazetteers in our truck that are all marked up. I would love to have this resource in a younger me. I think I'd have been even more dangerous.
Well, even going down an old forestry road with a trailer to find out that that's not the road that you need to be on. That's happened to me many times. We had to back a Lund Pro V in a Norway planting, like literally that we shouldn't have been down with that boat because we didn't have the Onyx Fish app. Now that we have that, that doesn't happen anymore. I can literally go right to the lake. I love the tool. Joel, I'm super pumped you're up here. I'm glad. This is such a great group of guys to be up on Lake of the Woods fishing with. Everybody is really fishy. Everybody's cool. Everybody loves just catching everything. We had an awesome shore lunch yesterday. Wiley Point Resort is where it's at. Wiley Point Lodge is cool. This part of Lake of the Woods is cool, and it is a place that I come almost every single year, and I absolutely love it.
I feel guilty. My boys are back at home, and they're just jonesing. After I'm sure Robbie's just like chomping at the bit. When can we get here? Because like Tony was explaining, at Wiley Point, you're kind of marooned in the fishiest area. You're in the middle of the more remote portion, harder to get to. But once you get here, everything's within spitting distance. Whatever you would want to do, this is an angler's paradise. It's a playground.
Absolutely. Joel, we're going to cut you loose. Thanks for jumping on the podcast. We're going to go whale on him tomorrow, bud.
Can't wait. Thanks, buddy.
All right. See ya. Arnison's Rocky Point Resort in northern Minnesota offers a little something for everyone. Nestled on Lake of the Woods South Shore, it provides easy access to 14 remarkable reefs. Serious anglers know that Arnison's offers some of the best fishing, charter fishing, and small boat fishing options, all supported by the largest protected marina on the lake's South Shore. Accommodation selections range from 1 to 5 bedrooms. Equipped with all the modern conveniences, guests can enjoy a delightful dining experience and stunning lake views at the Rock Harbor Lodge, an on-site full-service bar and restaurant. The two beaches provide hours of fun for the whole family. Whether you're seeking an idyllic fishing spot or a relaxing vacation, Arnison's Rocky Point has everything you need. Check them out at arnisonsresort.com. All right, Travis Frank, love having you on the podcast, buddy. I know you love this area just like me and everybody else we've had on here, this Ron Schara Productions crew. What's cool about everybody here is everybody is fishy. They love to fish. They love catching everything. We were just on the deck talking it to everybody, and I'm like, Trav, you got to jump on the podcast. Thanks for being on.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. I'm not over the muskie that just broke my heart 15 minutes ago.
I could tell it in your face.
I had it. I thought, this is it. John, get the net. Broken line.
Broke a line.
Yes, but that's my fault. We were in a big school of walleye, and all of a sudden I just happened to see this huge fish come in from the side, and I already had my mooch minnow down there.
Oh,
and
so you just said,
yeah, it was just, we were chasing around up here this time of the year. Most people think you have to go into the rocks to catch walleyes and the reefs and deep water. But you and I, Tony, the last couple of days, we have been hammering the walleyes in the shallow water, in the sand, and even in the mud. 5 feet of water, 4 feet of water. These ones, this school was in about 8 or 9, and they're aggressive. The walleyes are aggressive. So if you get a bait within a couple feet of them, the walleyes just scream at it. And the muskie happened to come in too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you had walleye gear on. That's why the broken line. Okay. Not like a muskie snap a braid. Okay. That makes sense to me. When you said or I guess when John came up and said you broke a line, I was like, broke a line?
No, he broke my rod. I'm down a rod and a reel. So this one, he stepped on it. He stepped back on the hook set, and he stepped on my rod, which snapped the reel right in the handle. So it just snapped it right off.
Well, I know you're no stranger to guiding, so it's just part of the casualty of war.
He goes,
right?
I'm so sorry. I said, it's my fault. I shouldn't have said it there. That was my bad.
So I put all of my rod. So in my rod locker, my Lunde, it holds 15 rods down below. They're absolutely packed because before I came here, I organized my boat. I put all my Crush City plastics, put everything together, retied. I had to add some braid. I mean, I was really organized. I got up at like 4 a.m. and just like went to town organizing stuff. I brought so many rods that some of them sit out, and all day long today and yesterday, I'd look back just to make sure, because if we shifted like sides of the boat, I would go and move the rods to the other side. As a veteran guide,
Oh yeah.
Like if someone's sitting in that back corner or the flip up jump seats or something is going to happen to one of those rods.
Yep. Yeah. I rarely break anything. I try to take care of it, make sure that everything's out of everybody's way. And I had just set it down because I literally just lost a muskie, and I set it down behind him on the front deck, and it was leaning back, and I went to go grab something, and I came up, and it was too late. But anyway,
with the guy with 4 kids that doesn't break stuff, that's amazing to me.
I know.
Because I have 2 kids, and they're grown kids, and they still break stuff.
I know it. This place is awesome, Tony. I'm glad that you are up here with us. We've been coming up as a company now for like 12, 15 years. Ron has been coming up for 31.
I know. Eric told me when we got to the landing, and then Ron announced it in the lodge. I came up here for years with a group, and then I still go to Kenora every single year in September. But being here, with everyone here at Wiley's, it reminds me of why this place is so special.
Yep.
Being centrally located in the middle of Lake of the Woods, where you can go any direction. Like, we went far today. Obviously, you stayed close and you fished muskies and whatever. I just know when on the way up here, because I'm just geeking out for being here, I saw Matt's report like the night before. And so I was on there, and I was on Wiley, and I jumped on a couple other fishing reports. And Matt had mentioned on his fishing report that he's catching fish shallow. And catch them into the cabbage, catching them shallow, less than 12 feet of water. I was like, that's great. That's great information. But when you get here, you're like, wow, I need to go hit all my icons. I need to hit my spots first. And we did okay when I hit my spots. And then when I got up shallow, like you said in the beginning, that's when it was like light bulb moment. Matt wasn't lying. His fishing reports were spot on. There is so many fish shallow because of the crayfish molt, varying reasons. I guess conventional wisdom, or back in the day, everybody says, when it gets hot in the summer, the walleyes go deep. We know that's not true, and that is definitely not the case here.
Oh, yeah. And I haven't had a minnow or a worm or a leech in my boat on this lake up here on the Canadian side since I started coming up. The first year, they're like, oh, yeah, we got minnows over here. And I said, okay, whatever. But you catch so many more fish on artificials up here. And the reason why I tell people, go ahead if you want to bring them, but you're going to switch as soon as you see what we're doing, because artificials, you can work them so much faster. And when you find some of these fish that are schooled up, and especially shallow, they're so aggressive that even if you miss a fish, doesn't matter. Let it crash to the bottom. They're going to come right back and smack it. And you can't do that with a minnow. It's not always running true. They might rip it off. And so I fish a lot of hair jigs. Hair up here is one of my favorite ways to fish, because you just have one big hook in the middle of that ball of hair, and you don't have to deal with treble hooks. They just go nuts. The new Eco hair, have you been throwing that at all this summer?
So, okay. Well, first of all, I'm a huge hair jig fan.
Yeah.
But I can't get off the Crush City Plastics train up here. And I tied a hair jig on, and Tom in my boat today, they were snap jigging in the back, and I was swimming mooch minnows. I tied a hair jig on his, and he got caught in the rocks. I did get it out, but I was like, okay, I'm going to take it off. And then, so what's cool about the Eco hair jig is the fact that it's flat. It's got that aspirin head design. Because I'm a huge hair jig fan. I fish bucktail. I fish marabou.
Yep.
I brought a pile of Eco hair jigs, so I want to hear if you've been fishing them up here.
So the first time I threw one, when they came out, we got the samples, right? Earlier this year. I was in Wisconsin, and I was on a family trip. We were in northern Wisconsin lake, pretty clear. And I chucked that thing over the side. I didn't even scan with forward facing. I just threw it out. I had my kids with a bobber under a leech, or a leech under a bobber. My mom, 2 nephews, a niece, and 2 kids. So it was a boat full. Everyone's ready. And I was like, I'm going to tie this on. And I chucked it out, and I snapped it twice, and a 22-inch walleye ate it. I was like, okay. And I've been throwing hair for a long time. But the holographic eye, and just the way that there's 2 tinsels on it, I started watching on this lake. It was crystal clear. I could see the walleyes with my eyes, and I started to watch how they would react to it. I'd pitch it out, and I could see how they wanted it. And just switching up the cadence with that, I have been absolutely crushing the walleyes on hair this year, to the point where I've been a huge jigging wrap guy. I've been throwing Rapala jigging wraps forever. It's just this time of the year, it's so dynamite. But that hair with a single hook facing up on some of the lakes in central Minnesota, where you might have a little bit of some scum or something on a rock where you get that moss, and the treble could get that little bit of black moss on it. The hair jig doesn't do that, because that one hook is on the upside. And the walleyes and bass as well, but specifically the walleyes this year, that bait I cannot tell you how many walleyes I've caught, big walleyes too, on the hair. And people think, well, you got to tip it with a minnow or a leech or something. Don't tip it with anything. Just throw it. And especially you come up on a lake like this, you can gain a lot of confidence with it. And then you take it to some of the other lakes where you wouldn't think some of the artificials would work, but it's out fishing live bait, and it's out fishing it by a lot.
I would say VMC has the best hair jigs on the planet, other than like custom tied, weird.
Yep. There's some bass guys out there that have been tying hair, and some guys up here in the marabou and that kind of stuff. And they've been catching walleyes up here forever.
Lake of the Woods, like Jeff Gustafson, obviously out of Kenora.
Yeah.
That's where the hair jig was born for smallmouth bass.
Yep.
But hair jigs, as far as walleye fishing, I just remember my dad, the Grizz, like hair jigs were a thing. But both you and I kind of grew up in a plastics era, and they kind of got forgot about, I think. And I really didn't fish hair jigs until VMC started coming out with hair jigs. I remember fishing a marabou, and then also a bucktail. And then obviously the moontail jig came out. Al was like a huge fan. I'm like, I got to try it. The action that you get out of hair versus plastic is totally different. What's your favorite go-to like snapping presentation? I know when it comes, and the reason that I'm so pumped about the Eco hair jig is the fact that it has that aspirin head design, just like the moontail.
Yeah. So it depends on the day. Sometimes when they're just really going, you can just rip it up. But the thing is, when you rip the rod tip up, you cast it out, close the bail, it sinks down pretty quick. It's heavy, right? So you get down there quick, depending on how deep you're in, right? I keep my rod at about 9 o'clock, and you feel it settle on the bottom, reel down the slack, and you rip it up about 3 feet. That jig flies about 6 feet in the air, or under the water, right? 6 feet off the bottom. But when you rip up your 3 feet with your rod, don't move the rod. A lot of people want to drop the rod tip down. I hold the rod tip up on the snap. The lure goes flying up, and then it does the pendulum swing down. And sometimes just that one snap up is all you need. And they're going to come up and they'll hit it on the fall, or they'll pin it to the bottom. One of the two. But if you lower your rod tip, then it just falls straight down. Then you don't have that swim down action that they're chasing. They're used to, and I think it looks a lot like a crayfish. If they don't eat it right away, if you can see the reaction and they don't eat it right away, then I'll rip it up, and then I'll flutter it as it's falling. I'll just kind of sort of with my rod tip flutter, And that's where I was watching them with my eyes in that clear water in Wisconsin, physically watching schools of walleye and how they reacted to it and could see what they wanted. And it's not that often you can watch walleyes eat a bait with your eyes, but I worked on a couple different cadences with it. And then I'm looking at this thing in the water and I'm thinking, it looks just like either a crayfish or some kind of a creature bug down there, but they want it. And I like the darker colors personally. There's a lot of different colors, and I just have so much confidence that I have a hard time going with the pinks and the chartreuses. But the black and the brown, the purple, those are the 3 colors that I have been using. And then that tinsel, it looks like 2 legs that are pulsating. So when you flutter it, if you watch a crayfish, how they kind of skirt backwards, and it has that action to it. So one of those 2 are all you need to use on that bait. And with one big VMC hook on there, you set and you got them locked in. It's not like, different baits that have different troubles and all of a sudden you're trying to keep it on. That is, if somebody said you need to go out and catch 100 walleyes as fast as you could, that's what I would do, because the efficiency and the hookup ratio is so dang good. So when you get on some of these pods of fish out here, like the guys were doing today, I went muskie fishing for the majority of today, but that's where you can really put a hurting on. And anybody that's throwing a jig and a minnow down there and vertically jigging, they're missing out, because the amount of time it takes for a walleye to swim, even if you're moving your boat trying to stay on top of it, I can cast out and I'll bring that jig past 8, 10, 15 walleyes in a single cast.
Right.
So.
What I also love about hair jigs is the fact that lifelike movement and the way that you're jigging it is how I also jig hair jigs. To get the most out of the hair is sort of puppeteering. I would call it puppeteering versus like a jigging wrap when you snap it and then you want it to fall on a slack line because it's that erratic movement. Mm-hmm. And sometimes snap jigging plastics, I'll snap it and I drop my rod tip down because I want that bait to fall down. And with the Crush City plastics, especially that TPE material, it's going to stand up. Whereas that hair jig, when you float it, and that's the thing about talking on this podcast with good jig fishermen. Like I can picture it in my mind because that's exactly how I fish hair jigs through the weeds. I fish hair jigs on the bottom. Certainly there's times where I'm snapping them, but when you talk about dropping that rod tip down and sort of puppeteering that bait and watching that hair fall, that's when that bait comes alive. Mm-hmm. So many people I think fall into the trap where they snap it and drop their rod tip, snap it and drop their rod tip. Yep. Or I get so many customers will snap it, and then rather than walking that thing down, they don't know where the bottom is. So if you're fishing a shelf and you're snapping it and then just dropping it on a slack line, you have no idea where that bait is in the water column. And I'll turn my forward-facing sonar just to see where they're at. They have no clue. And a lot of times a fish had already hit their bait. Yeah. I was like, hey, you got a fish on.
It's on.
it literally hit it. Whereas you walk it down, you see that braid jump and it just comes alive. Yeah. And when those Echo hair jigs came in the mail to my house, I was like, no way.
Oh,
this has been like my secret weapon. And, I'm like you. I fish a lot of really natural colors. I love blacks. For some reason, walleyes love black. Bass love black. They love that black. But we fish a lot of natural lakes. Those really, really bright colors come into play all the time. Like what I love about this part of Lake of the Woods, you'll be fishing kind of clear water. And then like what Ron and I fished yesterday, it gets really stained back in there. I put on some really bright colors that I normally wouldn't fish. The electric chickens, the fruit punch, sort of colors. And it's amazing how fish react to that in that setting. Yep. Whereas you and I usually are used to fishing that super clear gin, glacial lake water. And so that's what I love about VMC. They have a wide spectrum of colors.
And up here too, you can really experiment with a lot of it. And I've caught walleyes on the white and the pink, but I think people will really, really like when this product comes out. I think they're going to like the color options that they have with the Echo hair jigs. I mean, so I've got a mooch tied on. I've got a jerk on the tungsten head. I'm fishing everything really aggressive up here, really fast. This time of the year, those fish that are maybe suspended, you can get to them quick because everything is moving, right? The bugs are moving, whatever they're chasing out in the basins, they're moving. So there is nothing finesse. I was using 1/2 ounce jigs in 6 feet of water, and people would say, you're nuts, but I don't care. I'm in contact with so many fish. I mean, I waste zero time. There's no subtleness to it. When that thing crashes down in front of them, they just fly after it. So I'm not worried about having, the smallest jig I can get away with. And I do that back home. I'm on Lake Minnetonka. I'm on Lake Waconia. I'm on walleye lakes that are stocked, and I fish really aggressive. I go after it. The hair in weeds, there's no better way to rip through weeds than with hair. The mooch and the jerk and paddle tails are good as well, but that hair can snap like nothing else in the weeds. So if it's cabbage or milfoil or coontail, whatever it might be, that hair is the least used bait. Everybody that I show it to, they're like, huh. They're just baffled. And it's outfished everything else in my boat this year. One, because I'm using it more than other baits, and I'm just having fun with it. When new things come out, it's fun.
Right.
It's fun to use it, and then you just show people stuff, and they're going, oh, it's amazing. And they're like, when is it coming out? When is it coming out? Like, it'll be here soon.
That's what's cool about being here. If you want to get and really proficient at any kind of tactic, whether it be snap jigging for walleyes, casting plastics for smallmouth, fishing hair jigs, musky fishing, whatever it is, you come here, you're going to get good at fishing all sorts of different techniques, all day long. There's so many rods strung on my boat because I have all sorts of different jigs I want to throw. And I've got customers sitting there where we're, if we see a pike or a muskie, we're grabbing this bait and we're throwing this.
Yeah.
I hope tomorrow you don't have any more rods that break. Me too. Like I've
got stories after story that 2 guys go out of the boat yesterday. One he was letting a big old pike. He caught I think it was a 38-inch pike, and he's from California and he's never caught a northern before. So he got a nice photo with it. And then I said, all right, when you put him in the water, I set it in the water and I said, you can grab the tail like this and just hold it right here. And so he leans over to grab it and the pike slipped, because it's slippery. Yeah. And he went right in with it, head first in the water. And his legs caught on the side of my boat as his whole head was under up to his belly button, and I grabbed his underwear as he was falling in.
That was the story at dinner. I wasn't following that. I'm like, what's going on? Yeah. He's talking about grabbing his underwear and
right, because as he was going, it's the only thing I could grab onto was the back of his shorts. Overboard. Yeah, exactly. Then pulled him back in, and it's been a great trip. But I think we have 27 of us up here, and we've been doing this for many years, and you leave with stories every single day. So we're going to go have dinner in a minute, and everyone's going to tell stories from today. And that's what makes this place special. If anybody that's listening right now is thinking about doing a trip like this with friends or family, and if you have the means to do it, this is one of the most magical fisheries on earth for anything that you want to fish. And you've been blessed, Tony, to come up here and guide up here. I mean, my goodness, to spend the amount of time that you've spent up here, there's few places like it.
So when Scott asked me last year to come up, and I literally couldn't clear my schedule, it ate me alive for that whole calendar year that I made sure that this summer I blocked off that time frame, not even knowing if Scott would ask me again. Yep. And then when Scott asked me to come up here, I was just like, yes, I love it here. I love Wiley Point. The food is fantastic. This group of guys that are up here are great, but the staff here is great. Yep. Everything about it is fantastic. It truly is one of those special places, and I hope I get invited back. I cleaned all the fish at Shore Lunch to ensure that I'll get invited back.
I had
in the
my
near
knife,
future.
and I couldn't even get in on the table. And I am normally the fish cleaner, so I assume you're going to be welcome back again for many, many years.
Hey,
and I
I'm
hope
low
I am
man
too.
on the totem pole. I'll do dishes. I'll clean fish, whatever it takes, bud.
Oh gosh. Yeah, it's a special place. And to be able to come up here as many years as I have, I just feel fortunate myself.
Right on.
And, you know, every year I keep thinking, man, I hope I get to come back here again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll take a quick break. Travis and I got to get to dinner. I'm sure everybody's already down there. Travis, thank you so much for
Thanks
being
for
on the
having me
podcast
I
again.
appreciate it.
We got a couple more days of absolutely whacking them. So
Yeah.
stay tuned. We got more dialed in angling after this. That's going to about do it for me. I tell you what, being at Wiley Point just brings back so many great memories of fishing Lake of the Woods and being up in this area. If you want to come up here and fish with your family, fish with buddies, and just have a really good Canadian experience, have great food, great lodging, you're going to want to check out Totem Lodges. Wiley Point Resort is a great destination. And whether you have your boat and you want to get really good at techniques or you just want to come up, get a guided experience, they've got it all. I highly recommend this destination. This has been a fantastic trip with a great group of guys. You know, just seeing the camaraderie of all of these guys after they've been fishing here for year after year after year. They all know each other. They all joke around. It's what Fish Camp is all about. It's what Dialed In Angling is all about. I love being up here. Feel totally grateful for being invited. So I want to thank the staff. I want to thank everybody at Ron Schara Productions for putting this on. Of course, our sponsors. It's been a great week. I can't wait to get back on the water. Hopefully, if you have any inkling of coming up to this neck of the woods, certainly check out Totem Lodges. You can check them out on social media. They've got their Facebook page. Check them out. Great experience. Can't say enough about this destination. So thanks for tuning in each and every week. As always, I'm Tony Roach, and this has been the Dialed In Angling Podcast.